Alexander D. Fabridas.
Here.
Mike Correll.
Here.
Brian Carroll. Here. Ali Schoenfeld.
Here.
Matthew Tilley.
Here.
Jay Regan. Here. Joshua Langera. Isabel Boyer.
She is here.
She's
Luis Diagarde.
Here.
Ashley Hardez.
Here.
Riley Veeder. Danny Hazelton. Fiona Dolan.
Here.
Michaela App.
Here.
Joseph Astuli.
Here.
Alexander Robbins.
Here.
Hiroshima.
Here.
Mackenzie Morganway.
Here.
Stephen Nailsman.
Here. Are there any amendments to last meeting's minutes? Or any motions?
Motion to approve last week's minutes.
Second.
All those in favor of approving last meeting's minutes? All those opposed? Abstentions? Last meeting's minutes are approved. Are there any motions for the meeting minutes from December 6th?
Motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 6th.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from December 6th? All those opposed? Abstentions? The meeting minutes from December 6th are approved. Before we get started with today's meeting, we first wanted to take a moment of silence to honor Dr. Mark Swaski, who is a professor of political science and international relations here at Roger Williams for a number of years and helped numerous students, both current, past, and future students that were applying in the class of 2026. So we'll take a moment of silence. Thank you all. And throughout this meeting, let us remember Dr. Swaski and all that he did for our university. Before we get started as well, just a reminder that the Mary Tuft White Center is mask optional, and we support all students who choose to wear their mask or choose to go mask optional. But once we are in the Ford Library, masks are required there. And we will get started with open discussion. Are there any motions for open discussion?
Motion to close open discussion.
Motion to forego for discussion. Second.
We'll take that motion. All those in favor of foregoing open discussion? All those opposed? Abstentions? Open discussion is foregone, and we'll get started with open floor for the student body, starting with Jared from RHA. Do we have a report from RHA?
We do. Hi, Senate. Hope you all had a fun and safe spring break. Before the break, we finished the pro and con list and going over some long-term goals within the group. We discussed the attainability and the ways we can go after these goals. This upcoming week is the first of our scholarship weeks, and we will be starting with our Student Senate Academic Scholarship. As a reminder, the committee, please complete the scholarship Google form by Tuesday at 5.
That's not,
Yeah, it seems as though this is not.
that's mine.
All right, we'll come back to RHA and move on to Josias from MSU.
Everyone, hope everybody had a good break. Other than that, I guess we'll get started. Trust me, I know we're back in business because I received like 20 emails today and probably 50 texts because now I'm an RA, so that's fun. So other than that, that's all I'm planning fitness. So other than that, MSU started to come up with the final decisions. First day woke week, so see an important announcement for that very soon. We're just changing a couple of things, and we rescheduled one big event, which with our Black History guest speakers, Angela Harrelson and Paris Stevens, George Ligon, and cousin. So we're scheduling them for next Monday, the 28th at 7 o'clock, and that will be over Zoom, so that provides more opportunity for everybody. And then obviously look forward to what else we're planning for that week. And then we hope to see you all there. And then I'm pretty sure Sophie will probably talk about our Cosmo saga in her report. So I'm not taking it. Okay.
Great. Any questions for MSU? Alex?
Or because it's gonna be on Zoom, will the meeting be recorded and be available to students who are able to attend?
Sadly, no. The big contractual thing that we have to pay more money for, which we don't have to pay money. So that will be Senate. I'm looking at you guys. We're getting more money.
Any other questions for MSU? Moving on to Sydney and Meredith from CEN.
Hello, everyone. So we are super excited for March Meltdown, Fire and Ice. So hot, it's cool. Zach, I wrote this logo wrong actually in our report, so sorry about that. You can stop by our table times from 11 to 2 all week in Palms to get some awesome promotional items. We have a great week of events lined up. So starting tomorrow, we're kicking off from 11 to 2 in Commons. We have 2 photo booths coming. And it's the ones where you go inside and like it has like the strip that you can take with like all your friends. So definitely stop by. We're doing it all day, 11 to 2. It's going to be at the like middle-ish landing, but just look around. If it's not, we don't know if they're going to be able to lift both of them to that landing. But definitely check it out. It's going to be really fun. And then on Wednesday at 8 p.m. in the GHH atrium, we have Chill Out with Alex Christensen to stop by for some amazing treats such as macarons from the Perfectly Sweet Shop and then some pastries from Commons. And then on Thursday at 8 p.m. in the Field House, we have our Glow Crazy event, which is blacklight mini golf and capture the flag. And it's our co-spell with Habitat for Humanity, so we're really excited for that. And then on Friday, we have the Meltdown, which is going to be from 4 to 6 in the D'Angelo Common. We will have Championship Melt and Dallas Lemonade. And make sure to stop by for a special announcement about spring break. And then wrapping up March Meltdown on Saturday at 8 p.m. in the Field House, we have Up in the Air with John Cassidy. And he does some amazing things with balloons. He's like a magician, comedian type. So it's definitely an event you don't want to miss. So we hope to see you at all of our March Meltdown events. And then on Sunday, so excited we get to continue our week with more events. But we will have our Oscars night, which is a co-sponsored event with the Film Production Collaborative on Sunday in CAS 162. So we hope to see you. And then we also still have our board applications open for next year. So if you know anyone that's looking to get involved, please encourage them to apply for CEM. They will be open until April 3rd at midnight. So definitely encourage them to apply. The applications on the board.
Any questions for CEM? All right, moving on to Ava from ICC.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all had a great spring break. This Friday, we have our Commons Tap House event for seniors. The tickets are still on sale, so please make sure you purchase them if you have not. We also have our apparel fundraiser happening. I believe they might have just sold out today. So if it's the blue crew neck you're seeing on the TVs with like the white anchor and the 0809. Also for you juniors, junior semi is in a week. So please make sure that you have not purchased a ticket, you do so. So those tickets are those buses are filling up fast. So they're gonna quickly don't sell out yet. In the next couple of days, also our applications for the PR chair position and our design chair position for the 2022 to 2023 academic year will go live. We filled our keyboard just minus those 2 spots. So we had our elections last week before spring break. The sophomores this Sunday will be having their bubble soccer event from 8 to 10 in the field house. We've done this event once before and it was honestly really fun. It's like the big, you go into like a big blow up soccer thing. I think it would be a really great, like everyone, a great free board bonding event. Recommend everyone attending. Again, that's all for me, so thank you.
Any questions for ICC? Allie?
Can I ask who your new executive board is? Like, I know who the org
So
chair is.
our new executive chair for next year is Samantha Gregory. And then our executive secretary is still Sarah O'Donnell. Our executive treasurer is still Jack Quito. We made spirit and traditions instead of 2 positions. They're 1 co-chair position. So there's 2 people. It's Ananda Hines and Kyle Palella. And then our recruitment chair is Keely Dupuy.
Any other questions for ICC? All right, moving on to Luke from Hawks Herald.
Hi, everyone. I hope you all have a nice break. Our 5 of our equal members had a class in New York City for the College Association Conference. They learned a lot of information to reconnect with the staff. We'll be sending out applications for the 2022-2023 editorial board within the next 2 weeks. Also have a new question of the month and new things that people can deal with the intern for transfer to fire. And finally, I have applications out there.
Any questions for the Hawks Herald? All right, moving on to Sophie from Saga. Do we have a report from Saga?
We do. Happy Monday, and I hope you all had a restful break. This week, we'll be finalizing our plans for our Jeopardy Coastal with MSU on the 31st, as well as continuing to plan for Pride Week, which will be the first week of April. Thank you.
Any questions can be emailed to Sophie and Saga. Moving on to WQRI with Jules.
Hi, I hope you guys had a good spring break. Last meeting, we discussed our POA for half the block. We're working out for everyone and working on getting a food truck for the Olympic fitting. We also discussed our budget for the upcoming academic year, which I know you guys are. And we are getting ready to vote on our DJ of the year and Show of the year. We're taking nominations right now, so you guys know your WQRI shows. But yeah, so we're taking those and we're gonna vote soon. Exciting.
All right, any questions for WQI?
Go Horse.
Woo! And going back to Jared from RHA, do we have a report from RHA?
We do. Hope everyone had a relaxing break. Rogers Miracle Network, our RMN, will be taking place Saturday, April 2nd, at the Fieldhouse, and will be co-sponsored. Any questions about RMN should be directed to Gwen Kinder. Over break, I attended Spring Leadership Conference with Cole and Joe at Hofstra. Elections will open up soon, more to come. Who's love?
All right, any questions can be emailed to Jared or RHA. Now moving on to the executive reports. We'll come back to our advisors reports. Moving on to the president's report. Do we have a report from the president?
We do. Hello, everyone. I hope you all had an amazing spring break. By the time you all will be hearing this, I will hopefully be getting ready to board a plane back to Rhode Island. As far as an update from you goes, the Chief Diversity Officer, Vice President, will be joining Student Senate on April 11th to discuss the anti-racism campaign. There will be updates to be provided for launching of the campaign and the space for people's questions to be answered and feedback given. Please also make sure that there is ample discussion on the bills being presented tonight. As senators and committees have a lot of work to make changes that deserve to be debated. That is it for me. If I have any other updates, I will be sure to let you know. See you tomorrow.
Any questions can be sent to Jordan. Moving on to the vice president's report. Happy Monday, everyone. Hope we all enjoyed spring break and welcome back to campus. Getting started with some exciting news. We've had lots of exciting opportunities within Student Senate lately with the career development presentation earlier this evening with Mary Orell. If you're unable to attend, bless you.
Sorry.
And we can get you connected. Next week, we do have senior portraits taking place in the chambers. So any meetings that are taking place in the chambers will be moved to the alternative locations. The Google Drive has it in chairs. Please notify your committees. And then we will be ordering more pronoun plaques as well. So we make sure that we have enough for the expanded Senate that we do have now. And we do have caucus and cabinet tonight. So more updates, including ASDs of the month and other fun updates will be shared then. Any questions, Brian?
Same room that we were in last time.
Yes, the alternative location stays the same.
And that is sorry, is that this week or next week?
Next week, okay. The week of the 28th. All right, moving on to the treasurer's report.
Hello, everyone. Nothing major for me this week, but stay tuned for any announcements as we are approaching budgeting weekend.
All right, any questions for our treasurer? Izzy?
Can I ask if I don't know if this is appropriate or to discuss this, so please don't if you just want to talk offline. Was the money for the EMS office, like, is that like all set?
I'll talk to you after, but nothing from, I haven't gotten anything from them.
Any other questions for Zach? If not, moving on to the secretary's report.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all had a relaxing spring break and are re-energized to finish off strong for the remainder of the semester. Friendly reminder, deadlines are coming up fast, so please be sure you are taking note of what they are, so you do not find yourself getting demotivated. As stated in the weekly update, congratulations, folks. You all have kept 100% compliance for 2 straight weeks of completion of the Senate weekly quiz, so keep it up, and some more incentives will be thrown in there as we go. If you have not noticed it already, we now have a QR code posted in the mailboxes for you to easily access the office hour checkout form. It also can be accessed in the Google Drive under the forms document. The Senate history fun fact is that in 2001-2002, the academic year was the first full year the Student Senate had a parliamentarian. More specifically, March 26th of 2001, the office of the parliamentarian was adopted into our bylaws. Have a great week.
Any questions for Zach? If not, moving on to the parliamentarian's report.
Good transition. Hello, everyone. Hope you all had a good break. So as I said, kind of before break, there are legislation templates for appointment bills, ratification bills, bylaw amendment bills, funding bills, and general legislation bills in that folder in the drive. Charlie Pro Handbook is in that folder in the drive. Files are updated from our last meeting, and your Parley Pro fun fact is that for any candidate that is wishing to run for student body president for the spring, or for the next academic year rather, must have served on Senate for 2 full academic semesters, meaning that you must have been on Senate at the first meeting of the semester until the last for 2 full semesters. And a good gauge to see if you're eligible to run for student body president is that if you were on Senate last year and you were elected to be on the Senate for this year during the spring elections last year, then you're likely eligible. If you're considering running for student body president and you're unsure of your eligibility, then just reach out to me and I can clarify that for any of you. The last thing from me is that throughout the week, I will be inputting past initiatives that were brought to the Senate floor that weren't, or that were discussed in committees that might not have necessarily been completed into monday.com so that they can possibly be taken on by any senator around the table. If anybody wants to take those on, needs any guidance, please, as I always say, feel free to reach out to me with any questions, thoughts, or concerns. We only have about 5 meetings left for the Senate. So if anybody is going to be introducing any resolutions or open debate topics, then those should be getting started sooner rather than later. Thanks.
Any questions for Ally? If not, enjoy the night, org leaders. If you want to stay, please feel free to do so. And we'll be sure to send any advisor report information that's pertinent out to all of you. Enjoy the night. Moving on to our Senate report, starting with standing committee reports and finance.
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone had a great spring break. So this will be in regards to the finance meeting on March 9th, 2022. So the first club which came in was Rhythm and Roots, who came in for a $680 request for their twerking and wine night event, in which they were in which case they were allocated in full. Next came in Dance Club, who needed lighting equipment for their yearly spring dance show. They were allocated $1,750 for lighting equipment. Next, the Science Lands came in for their American Chemical Society National Meeting, requesting $11,697.80. Can't speak today. It's a lot of dollars. In which case they were allocated $4,000 due to the discretion of the committee. Next, Outing Club came in for $5,136 for future rock climbing outings, in which case they were allocated $2,500 for the request. Finally, American Advertising Federation came in for an $895 request for their AAF firm trip, in which case they were allocated $537. And the meeting was extended by 10 minutes to ensure that all clubs were met with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions? Moving on to clubs and orgs.
Good evening, Senate. We had an exciting week before break. On Tuesday, we approved 2 more trial clubs, Creative Business and RPG Masterminds. We also on that day approved Rhythm and Roots for full club status finally. So nominated for up the months again. Lastly, on Wednesday, we had an emergency meeting and approved the Fashion Club for trial club status. And I look forward to seeing what they're doing. I would also like to let everyone know that the club monthly reports will go live this Wednesday at 5 p.m. So be on the lookout for that, and they are live until the 7th. So get started on all of your clubs. And if you do not know which clubs you have, they are in the drive under a sheet I need called Spring Club Reps. And if you can't find that, just ask me and I'll tell.
Any questions for Brian, Jay?
They are a business club dealing with entrepreneurs.
That's an awesome name.
Interesting.
Big deal.
Any other questions? All right, moving on to student life.
Good evening, everyone. This week in student life, hopefully at some point either tomorrow, but probably since locations are being moved, maybe next week, take a field trip to the Public Safety Dispatch Center. Kathy Souza, Director of Environmental Health and Safety, visited with us last week to talk about just different safety kind of initiatives that maybe we can tackle, because normally the student life committee would take on a safety walk, which we're not really doing due to the master plan and a lot of things that we would have noticed being built up and all the things anyway. But, yeah, so we had talked a lot about public safety, kind of like what is in place for, certain evacuation procedures, like what is public safety's role. So to kind of show the behind the scenes of public safety, we will be just, checking it out to see what it's like in headquarters there. But in the meantime, we will also be working on PSAs to help the student body be aware of exit and protocols in the event of emergency. So for evacuation protocol, right? I know my parents really just told me that if you're going somewhere unfamiliar, that you always look for the exits and things like that. So on campus, if there's ever a fire, something that Kathy Souza had brought up is really interesting that I never took into account is if you're on, like, in Upper Commons, do you think about any other exit other than the two, like the one by admissions and the one by the farmhouse? There's exits like not on the upstairs, but there's stairs that you can take in the event of a fire. Like, so there's just fun facts that, not a lot of students would know. So we're gonna do some PSAs just to be like, hey, like if you're in an emergency situation, you need to leave a building, this is where you can go. So lots of fun things. So we'll do a little PSA, send some things Mackenzie's way. Other than that, to kind of finish out the semester on student life, I know we had planned to do safety videos, but kind of just with what the time is left in the semester, we won't be making videos, but we will hope to maybe make a script to kind of outline different ALICE training or something similar that pertains to safety and evacuation on campus so that future student life committee can possibly work on that. So that's everything student life.
Any questions for Ally? All right, moving on to academic affairs.
Hi, Senate. Hope you all had a fun and safe spring break. Before the break, we finished our pro and con list, going over some long-term goals for the group. We discussed attainability and ways we can go over these goals. This upcoming week is the first of our scholarship weeks. We will be starting with our Student Senate Academic Scholarship. As a reminder to the committee, please complete the Google form for the scholarship by tomorrow at 5 p.m., selecting 2 nominations on who you believe to be deserving. I hope you all have a great first week back, and I'm looking forward to getting started on scholarship season.
Any questions for Matt? Moving on to public relations.
Happy Monday, Senate. I hope everyone's had a happy and healthy break. This past week, I sent out the headshots. Everyone took them with me 2 weeks ago. Senators are going to choose which many photos they took. They prefer, and I'll edit the ones that they choose shortly. If you have not taken your headshots yet, please sign up for a time slot this Wednesday. I hope to see a lot of people there. PR will be focusing on a few initiatives over the next week, including our accepted student stays table and promoting the Parking Council's information and resources that they've asked me to share. As always, if anyone has any other ideas or information they would like to share on our social medias, please feel free to reach out.
Any questions for Mackenzie? Hearing none, we'll move into student council reports and our report from our parking council.
Hey Senate, hope you all had a great spring break. Parking is in the midst of discussing a few different projects, with one of our primary focuses being to shine away on all the good services public safety provides that students may not know about. Looking forward to providing more information.
Any questions can be emailed to parkingappeals@senate.rw. Moving on to DEI.
Good afternoon, everyone. At our last meeting, we reflected on the meeting prior with our CDO. We also discussed how we can utilize the new staff member that will be joining us post-break. During the meeting, we split into 2 groups to talk and create goals and timelines for the 2 projects that we're working on, the civil discourse statement and the creation of a affinity group charter classification. More to come on these.
Any questions for Josh? Moving on to sustainability.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday and welcome back. Before spring vacation, the council worked to draft an outline of the sustainability walk, and tomorrow we will work to finalize it and additional details to follow. From there, we plan to reach out to student clubs, organizations, and the classes we spoke to about joining us on the walk. We've reached out to Student Life to join us, and we will work to include everyone here and ask if you are available to join us when the dates become available. Other than that, we will continue to finalize campus connections and continue to move forward. So any other questions or clarifications with regards? Thanks.
Any questions for Izzy? All right, moving along with ad hoc committee reports, starting with bylaw review.
Hi. So before break, we started working on Article 5, but that's really it, besides the fact that I'm looking forward to debate and discussion on the bill for tonight because we are amending a very important part of our bylaws.
Any questions for the bylaw review committee? Hearing none, moving on to Slick.
Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, we did not meet 2 weeks ago, right before spring break, due to our advising on being able to be there. So there is nothing to report this week. We will be meeting on Thursday around noon. There will be a meeting report next week. But I do want to extend my thank you to everyone who did fill out this nomination packet. Really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy schedules to nominate some of your fellow colleagues for recognition for all they did this year. And with that, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to let me know.
Great. Any questions for Alex? Moving on to the elections committee.
Me again. Hello. Oh my gosh, wait, I have a typing book for this. We just had our first meeting at 5 tonight to discuss promo. But besides that, elections packets are live in case you did not see that email over break. So make sure to get those filled out by Monday, this coming Monday at 12 p.m. if you are planning on running for Senate again. There are banners and A-frames going up for the elections this week, and the elections committee did meet tonight, like I stated. We're talking about a lot of great promotional things, mainly social media promotional aspects, because we do not want to infringe on any organization's planned out week. As you have heard, we have a lot of great organization theme weeks coming that are during the elections. So we're probably going to be doing more table times and social media things. Please keep an eye out because we may be asking senators to help out with any of those social media promotional aspects or table times. We will not be doing the town hall that was mentioned at a previous Senate caucus because we quite simply don't have the time to adequately plan that between now and the elections. And as I stated before, we don't want to plan over an organization's theme week. And we will also be appointing new ICC members to the committee tonight because the members needed to be senior class officers per our bylaws, but that's all.
Any questions for Ally? Moving on to university committee reports. Are there any university committees?
So good evening, everyone. Again, the University Sustainability Committee finally met the Wednesday before spring break with both myself and Kelsey in attendance. This meeting was more just kind of an introduction meeting, including the introduction of members that were joining us, an overview of where the university is at and where we're heading, the STARS program, the organization, and the areas that are needed for that, and who can take on what. Looking at all of the areas that STARS covers and having to take inventory to submit for STAR. So it looks like we're probably doing that more towards probably this year, sometime in the middle of this year, hopefully. But more to come.
Any questions for Izzy? Or any other university committee reports? Hearing none, is there a motion to redo roll call?
Motion to redo roll call.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of redoing roll call? Those opposed? Abstentions? Can I get a roll call, please?
Adam Kavanaugh.
Here.
Zachary Doman.
Here.
Alexander Fabridas.
Here.
Michael Rao.
Here.
Brian Carroll.
Here.
Ali Schoenfeld.
Here.
Matthew Tilley.
Here.
Jay Regan. Here. Ashley Manjera.
Here.
Isabel Boulier. Luis DeGarden.
Here.
Ashley Harzat. Here. Riley Veeder. Danny Hazelton. Yona Dolan.
Here.
Kayla App.
Here.
Joseph Pastuli. Alexander Robbins.
Here.
Hiroshima. Kenzie Morganweg.
Here.
Stephen Hilton.
All right, any motions for old business?
Motion to open here. Old business, I mean, sorry. Second.
All those in favor of opening old business? All those opposed? Abstentions? Old business is now open. Are there any bills for old business? Mike?
I need a moment there. Introducing SS48 074, a bill amending Article 7, Sections 5, 6, and 8 of the Student Senate bylaws.
All right, would you like to feel that? Actually, that's okay. Actually, can you just restate the name of the bill?
Yes. A bill amending Article, sorry, yeah,
Actually,
Article
just to
7,
jump in here, sorry, Mike, do you mind doing 072 first?
272. Oh, my bad. I put them in the wrong order. Introducing SS48-072, a bill ratifying the Student Activities Fee Handbook for Student Senate 48.
Great. Would you like to elaborate on it?
Of course. So far, the Finance Committee has worked tirelessly to form this handbook. So as bylaw review committee has been basically taking out a lot of those larger, more convoluted sections within the bylaws in regards to things like Article 7, where we're going to be talking about more on the finance side. A lot of that information is also going to be moved over to the SAF handbook. So as we go along, you'll notice that a lot of this information is actually going to be from the bylaws. And what the committee mainly was doing was taking this information that can be adopted by the committee in the future. It can be simplified and revised. And there's only a few small additions. Yeah.
All right. Is there anyone from the speakers list for this bill?
Thank you. So I think this is, I like the handbooks that we have coming out because it's kind of like a condensed way for like clubs and orgs to just have one area where they can refer to how like everything's going to be utilized, increase transparency. So now, if I can clarify, this is for clubs and orgs to look at for reference, or is this just for like finance?
Mike, would you like to grab?
So with this, with the handbook, one, it's also meant for like the entire finance committee to be able to look at and understand so that when they go over it, they can have that easy understanding. However, we also want to go through it with the idea that many clubs and organizations, if they want that reference material, they can be pointed here compared to having to go through the bylaws and not understand the wording or have to search for it. So it's meant to be a centrally located handbook with all the necessary.
I really love that. That's gonna be awesome. Thanks.
Alex?
To correct on that point, are we going to be giving this to the clubs and organizations like at the beginning of every year? Is this gonna be a part of the package trial club status? Where is this going for the clubs and organizations?
Mike, would you like to draft?
Of course. As of right now, I'm pretty sure that there aren't any formal plans on how this will be dispersed. I'm pretty sure it will be located basically with the other handbook, which will be in the drive, which you can find on Auckland. However, that is a great idea to keep in mind.
Does that conclude your speaking turn?
Yes.
Jay?
As a former member here. How does this differ from like a line of consistency that we got at the start that kind of seems compared to where you spend on the.
Mike, would you like to draft?
Of course. So if you actually scroll to the bottom of the handbook, yeah, I know you're all at the top.
That's hefty.
It's section 18. So right there, that's going to be your lines of consistency. So the lines of consistency are going to remain the same, and the procedure for changing them will be remaining the same in that budget weekend time. But the handbook itself is going to be those operating procedures and guidelines that the committee has to follow and that clubs also have to follow. So it's going to talk about how money is dispersed. It's going to talk about budgeting. It's going to talk about how finances operate within the clubs. It's going to talk about different forms of clubs. It mentions the FTE, which I had to figure out what that was in the committee. But a lot of the information, it's going to be what you would find in the bylaw, except now it's meant to be able to be changed by the finance committee to adapt easier and more.
I kind of echoing what was said before, I love the idea of these kind of dense handbooks. And I love that they're made by the groups that have the highest stake in them. So I like have complete confidence that the group would want their information to be as accurate. I'm sure you did a darn.
Josh?
Questions? Was there a handbook prior to this, proposition?
Mike, would you like to draft?
Yes. So before this, there was no handbook. You have to find all this information within the bylaws. And a lot of the information as well would have been packed full of a lot of words. So what this is doing, I know, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna go over it. So what we did is like with the handbook is we also want to try and make it so that a lot of these sections that we're picking from it are just being condensed as well and made a bit more simplified.
And following up on that, with a lot of new councils and unresolved open discussion topics currently, what processes were used when creating and drafting this new handbook that would be useful for, a council working on a project or start something?
Mike, would you like to draft?
Of course. So when it came for the Student Activities Fee Handbook, one of the things that really determined it is like how to start it. And really that comes with the parliamentarian also wanting to create those handbooks. So the idea wasn't mine. However, what I will say is like, when it comes to making the handbooks and organizing for something like council in the future or another committee, really it's getting that idea of what information you want to put down. And then also trying to gather the committee to work together. And I like the idea of making it so that the committee is now going into this project with an ascertained amount of information, but they're still going in mostly blind, so that when they're reviewing this information, they're gonna have to figure out what those words are. And that means that if something doesn't make sense, it has to be changed. So really, it's trying to come into these projects with the mindset of a student who wouldn't be on Senate, or a student who doesn't have this information, and also having that collaboration aspect too.
Thank you.
Of course.
Z?
So beforehand, where was the bylaws located for people to look at this?
Mike, would you like to draft?
Yes. No, you're fine. So the sections that you'll find here are primarily located in Article 7 of the Student Senate bylaws.
Yes.
So there's gonna be two articles. There's gonna be Article 6, which is gonna go over your basic information with clubs, and that's gonna be our future club and works handbook. And then there's gonna be Article 7, which is gonna go over all your financial information. So in this, you still have to open up the bylaws. You're gonna have to scroll all the way down. You're gonna have to find it. And now you're still gonna have the Article 7 in there, but it's gonna say a lot more of the very basics of the information. And it's gonna tell you that in the bylaws there, for any information pertaining to the handbook, it's still gonna reference the handbook that recommended. I hope that answers it.
Information,
Ally?
the actual bylaws were accessible to students on Hotline.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
no,
like-
no,
I'm like-
No, I was gonna clarify, but I didn't want to interrupt you. You're very passionate.
I am very.
So.
Does that conclude your speaking turn, Izzy?
No, it does not. With that being said, I know a prior senator had asked how this is going to be disseminated to the campus population. Is there going, if you do not know, I'm crying at this point, is there going to be collaboration with the Clubs and Orgs Committee to kind of, disseminate the Clubs and Orgs Handbook and the Student Activities Fee Handbook together? Is there going to be, because I'm going to be honest, I didn't, as a club president, I'm going to show my ignorance a little bit. I did not know that this was something that I could refer to as a club president who didn't have a budget to begin with. So I think it's important that when we are disseminating this handbook, that we make sure it's as available and as clear as possible, that this is something that you can refer to. So we don't have students who are putting together this huge budget and then they come in and they're like, wow, why did I only get $60 when I asked for 400? So yeah, just make 2 cents.
Joe?
My question.
Oh, Mike, was,
I just wanted to direct really quick on that, if
Okay.
that's okay. This is like very new information, just like as I mentioned, and there has been a deliberation there, and make sure that we review each handbook, so we can try and put in that necessary information. However, in the future, I'm hoping that, yes, it will be included, with like, in the Hotline page, so it is easy to access. However, I do want to make sure, like, as a previous senator noted, that, there are more ways to access this information, because it would be a bit of a hassle if we did all this work for no one to see it.
Yes, 100%. Thank you.
Joe?
My question is, how does the ratification process look over the upcoming years? Let's say if changes need to be done.
Mike, would you like to draft?
So. But okay, sorry. With the ratification process, and Ebor can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this process takes place that it's going to go through the finance committee. So if there's any changes that'll be made, it's going to be overlooked by the finance committee, then it's going to be brought over to Ebor so that they can overlook it as well, and then it can be accepted. Now, what's going to happen is at the beginning of each year, each academic year for Senate, they're gonna overlook the changes by the student activities fee and make sure that all those changes we still want to keep in the handbook for the future.
Joe, does that conclude your speaking turn? Alex? Any other? Ashley?
I'm assuming in the future, correct me if I'm wrong, that like the main person who's gonna be like working on like the changes to the student activities fee would be the treasurer, since now they'll be in charge of the finance committee, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So was there anything that, from either the transition binder for the finance chair or for the treasurer about how to utilize the student activities fee that could have been included in the handbook?
Mike, would you like to direct?
Sure. Okay, first I can ask a question. Do you mean, sorry, I forgot what it's called. Transition binder from last year or for the upcoming transition?
Just like in general,
Just in general?
just like any information that like only like the finance chair, or the treasurer would have, like in having their position that of how like utilizing the student activities fee was explained to them, that could be included in the handbook for more clarity for like committee members or clubs.
Okay, I feel like that's a question, it's like, that information will be included, but I don't think it should be information that should just be like withheld. Because like when it comes to this information, this is gonna be stuff that, once again, it's gonna be deliberated with the entire committee beforehand. So I think that mainly with the handbook, what we want to include in there is on how these processes will look like, what we want to see like out of a change, like what steps would you want to make? And then like how to find like problems with it. But it should be like withheld, like if you want to like look at that information, I feel like any committee member should be able to as well, considering they have any right to try and spot an issue in the handbook as the treasurer does.
Any other speakers for this bill or any motions?
Motion to someone else. I can't remember.
Motion to call this bill into question?
Second. All those in favor of calling this bill to question? Those opposed? Abstentions? This bill is now called to question.
Motion to vote by normal hands.
Second.
All those in favor of voting by normal hands? All those opposed?
Okay.
Abstentions will now vote by normal hands. All those in favor of adopting SS48 072? All those opposed? Abstentions? This bill passes.
Am I?
Are there any other bills for old business?
Introducing SS48 073, bill amending Article 7, Sections 1 through 4 of the citizen bylaws for consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
So yeah, as outlined in this bill, these are just some, so everything indicated in red is basically some of the changes that the bylaw review committee found to be needed to be more concise and clear. So we basically struck some things and made things more specific. As you can see, we kind of talked about. Yeah, so we basically strike section 4 because we wanted to kind of highlight that more into the handbook. And then we also went more in depth with the class A, B, C, and D and E charters. And we made that more specific as it was not stated previously.
Anyone for the speakers list? Alex?
All the information that was struck from this article, did it all get moved to the handbook, or was it some that was struck and moved and some just got struck and it's gone?
Would anyone like to direct? Mike?
With the information, some of the information that you'll find has just been struck because it needs to be struck for a simplification purpose. Typically you'll see it like with larger paragraphs, especially in later bills. You'll find larger paragraphs be struck and relocated into the handbook. It's a little bit different.
I'm sorry, did you say that you were expanding on A, B, C, D, and E charter classes?
Well, Zach,
Right. So we were basically just making it more stated where it was not before. So we are trying to be concise, consistent rather, where we have mentioned it previously, whereas here it was not stated previously.
Thank you.
Jay?
You scroll.
So based on the way that I understand that this is now laid out, there's 2 sections in total. There's section 1 and there's section 2 and everything else falls under section 2, correct?
Yeah.
That's concise. Like that.
Jim?
My question is it explained anywhere either in the SAF handbook or the club performance handbook, which I know is in the pro works? Does it explain what falls under A, B, C, D, and E charter classes?
Would anyone like to direct? Mike?
I'm pretty sure, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, or the clubs and orgs chair, correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure that the clubs and orgs handbook will distinguish what the differences between those charters are, and it also distinguishes it within the bylaws already in the earlier section.
Josh?
Yes, they will be discussed on what they are.
Josh?
With these different charters and classes of clubs, this is a general, not directed towards any particular party. But what would the process, what would the process be like if a new charter, what's the timeline of a new charter being put in place?
Would anyone like to direct? I can take it. So for Adrian?
I yield to Adrian.
So the process would truly look as a bill coming to the floor for the creation. It's the same thing as if we were creating a new section 5 into any article. So we would just really have to distinguish what this additional charter is. And it's identifying factors compared to the other charters.
Point of information, and then if you needed to add like whatever the letter for it is in like any of the other parts of the bylaws, that's a friendly amendment thing that I as a parliamentarian can add in other places in the bylaws. So that's not something that like you would necessarily need to worry about. It's just, you just sort of need to like create it, if that's helpful.
Thanks.
So overall, it's not a problem. It really is a problem.
That conclude your speaking time, Josh? Jay?
All the way at the bottom. Oh. Okay, no, never mind, withdrawn.
Any other speakers to the speakers list?
Motion to call this bill into question.
All those in favor of calling this bill to question? All those opposed? Abstentions? As this is a bylaw bill, we will vote by roll call.
Zachary Demian,
Yes.
Zachary LaFontaine,
Yes.
Mike Earl,
Yes.
Brian Carroll,
Yes.
Ali Schwanfeld.
Yeah.
Matthew Kelly.
Yep.
Yes.
Jason Regan,
Yes.
Joshua Ungara,
Yes.
Isabel Bollier.
Yep.
Luis Diogarte,
Yes.
Ashley Harris.
Yep.
Riley Veeder, Danny Hazelton, Fiona Dolan. Margaret Axe,
Yes.
Joseph Pismiller,
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins,
Yeah.
Kira Shimley,
Yes.
Stephen Elsnick.
Yes.
As well passes.
Any other pieces of legislation for old business?
All right, I need a second.
Mike?
Introducing SS48-074, a bill amending Article 7, Sections 5, 6, and 8 of the Teen Senate bylaws.
Would you like to elaborate?
Forward. So this bill, well, when we're looking at this bill, it's primarily going to be a lot of simplification, trying to make it a lot more concise and also cutting out those informations for the SAF handbook. Firstly, like we go to section 5, which is now section 3. And this is gonna be looking more into the budget itself, it's gonna be simplifying the description and also going over what an operational budget is on section 6, which is now section 4. Tries to put a focus more on the rollover information of the SIF, as well as the function of what discretionary accounts are. And I'm pretty sure that this information is not gonna be in the SIF handbook, but the information that is cut out was put over into the SIF handbook, because one of the things that's noted is that discretionary accounts, the finance committee cannot interfere with. Then section 8, which I believe should now be section 5, section 6, pardon me. Primarily going to go over the simplification of the process as well as general allocation requests. Okay, never mind. Okay.
All right, are there any speakers for the speakers list? Ashley?
Can you just go to the first page, please? Friendly amendment in the let it be resolved section, instead of section 18, it should say section 5, 6, 7.
Is it?
So, well, we're amending 5, 6, and 8, and we're not doing anything with 7.
I'll direct to that. Section 7 is going to be a separate bill.
Sorry, there's a lot of those. Thank you.
Anyone else for the speakers list?
Motion to call this bill to question.
I'll veto that. Let's have a little bit more discussion before we go to call the bill to question.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, because section 7 is different though.
my bad.
Yeah, no, no, my bad.
I tried to do some basic addition.
No, I tried to do it.
Finance chair
Trying to
failed.
do it.
All right, are there any other speakers for this bill? Mackenzie?
I have a kind of general question about the language in this, and I don't know if this is the right time, but when was this language written initially and hasn't been overhauled like we're currently doing now in the past?
Would anyone like to direct to that?
Point of inquiry, are you asking if there's been a bylaw review committee, like when the last bylaw review committee?
Yeah, because I just feel like we're going over this like, but I didn't know if this has happened before just because I'm newer, but.
Ellie, would you like to direct?
There was a bylaw review committee in Senate 46.
So,
Is he?
so it hasn't been since then? Okay, very spicy.
Stephen?
Just a quick question, why it was dissolved?
Ellie?
If you're,
Say it.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out the right words to
Say, well,
No, you don't necessarily need to have the bylaw review committee in fruition every year because it is an ad hoc committee. So if you're consistently trying to like if the bylaws are updated to reflect the current practices, then there's no need to review the entirety of the bylaws. But I was in my role, like noticing that they weren't reflecting the current practices, so that's why we decided to call it back. So, yeah.
Is he?
so, my apologies, there's a lot of different moving parts to this, so I just want to clarify. Is the operational budget part also in the student activity handbook? Is that needed to be in there?
Mike, would you like to direct?
Sorry, I just don't know the full findings.
That's fine. So I believe operational budget is not in there. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm blanking right now.
My question, does it need to be, like, is it like, no, it doesn't?
It doesn't.
All right, so that's the,
Simple answer right there.
okay, thank you.
Any other speakers? Bill?
Scroll. Can you pause? Sorry.
And I'll jump in here with a point of information. The allocations committee is a new body that is being created. So that might be some of the changed language. It's something that we talked about at the student center retreat. And this is kind of the first step in establishing that while we're amending this section of the bylaws. at future meetings, we'll hear more about the allocations committee and all it entails.
Yeah.
Ashley?
That was kind of my question, like, are we like allowed to mention this committee that doesn't exist in the bylaws yet?
Point of information, that will be part of the article of amendments that we're doing this week.
Okay,
So it'll work out,
okay,
because it's not
Okay.
gonna be called upon within this week.
okay. Thank you.
Izzy?
So this is for an establishment of allocations committee. So I'm sorry, I'm just trying to break down in my head the difference between academic allocation and allocations committee. So what class would this, chairs of class be? Could you give examples of what kind of organization? I'm sorry, do I have them right now? No. Okay, sorry.
Would anyone like to yield to our advisor?
I yield.
Thank you all.
Sorry.
Adrian?
Just trying to make sure I get the
Sure. Okay, so the allocations committee, academic allocations are not charters. Okay, so they're not clubs, they're not organizations. They are individual students or they are outside groups, kind of like the Howies, that are not chartered by Senate. And they would come to one of these committees to request funding from the student activities fee for something that they need to do. They're going to a conference or they're looking to get funding to purchase signage for something on campus that's more sustainable, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But they're not groups that are chartered by us, nor would they be groups that would always come to us for things, but it's because it's for the greater student body and it's something more of a long-term, investment / way to put Roger on the map type deal, it's those kind of things. So it's not, a club or organization. It is truly a different separate thing. And the difference between allocations committee and academic allocations is academic allocations is truly for student research projects that are not associated with a class. Senate allocations committee, that is where, like I was saying, like the Howies could come because they have an amazing conference opportunity where they've done presentations, and so they need some additional funding. Okay?
So can I do a follow up?
Yes.
Does, I'm sorry, there's a lot of sections here. Does this, is the bills in the future, I know you mentioned next week we're gonna have to bill, but is that gonna discuss the establishment of the allocations committee? And will that kind of run similar to the academic allocations where it meets when there's a request?
Yeah, I'll direct to that. So the allocations committee will serve 3 purposes, and we will hear more about that next meeting.
Okay.
The first purpose will be academic allocations. So the current academic allocations committee will cease to exist. And it will now be the allocations committee that will hear those requests and decide those. The second purpose will be for general allocation requests, as our advisor noted, Howie's, the Delta Sigma Pi groups, different department groups could come in to the allocations committee and request funding. And the third thing is reserve funding bills.
Okay.
So that would be anything that needs to come from the reserve account and meets a certain dollar threshold. And that's this part. And that for those reserve funding bills, the allocations committee would be the first group to hear it and give a recommendation to Senate via bill. And then we're to vote on it as a full student senate.
Thank you.
Jim?
On line F, it says, funding bill shall pass by two-thirds vote. Is that among the, whoever would sit on the allocations committee?
Yes. Would anyone like to yield a speaking turn to Ashley? Ashley.
Okay, so that the previous we were confused because it says in here that like the treasurer will inform. The request,
The committee will vote to recommend allocating the funds as a form of a funding bill to the general senate. And so then the following week, it will be brought to the general senate, and then the general senate will be voting with the 2/3 majority, or will the committee be voting with the 2/3 majority? Because you just said the previous senate, that'd be the committee, but the language in this makes it seem as if it's gonna be brought in front of the whole senate to vote for it.
Yes, so to direct, the committee will be voting by 2/3 majority to send it to Senate with a favorable recommendation. And then at that point, Senate would then vote by 2/3 majority. So there's two different votes that would take place. One would be the committee voting, and then one would be the full general Senate.
And then second, we're essentially just moving the part from like section A about like who it's being like sent to section C. So after it's like discussed at the elections committee, then the treasurer is gonna notify like this many people not before. Right?
Correct. So it would be dependent on the favorable vote by the committee.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other speakers for the speakers list or any motions?
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
All those in favor of calling this bill to question? Those opposed, abstentions? This bill is now called to question. Since this is a bylaw bill, we'll vote by roll call.
I don't know why that's in that. Zachary Domian,
Yes.
Zach LaFontaine,
Yes.
Mike Arel,
Yes.
Brian Carroll,
Yes.
Ali Schoenfeld. Yeah. Matthew Tilly.
Yeah.
Jason Regan. Josh Rivera. Isabel Bollier,
Yeah, yes.
Louise Diogarte,
Yes.
Ashley Reyes,
Yes.
Riley Peters, David Hazelton, Anna Dolan,
Here.
Michaela. Joe Pistoli,
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins,
Yes.
Ira Shimley,
Yes.
Stephen Nelson,
Yes.
What?
Jason Regan, vote.
On the bill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's the full pass.
It's a question on stage.
Hold on. We holding on?
A lot of people.
Pretty struggling here.
Sorry, I totally forgot. about the fact that the application is doing everything.
Yeah.
It's okay, there's a lot
Yeah, there's
of
one
measures
more.
on the floor. We're right there.
Yeah, we're good.
There's a lot of moving parts.
This will pass.
Great. Are there any additional bills for old business? Zach?
Introducing SS48 075, a bill amending Article 7, Section 7 of Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Would you like to yield, or would you like to elaborate?
We go to the vice president.
So this is the second part of the allocation committee, not creating the committee yet, but we're forming the process for academic allocations as well that would allow the allocation. Current practice is that the committee is chaired by the vice president, with the treasurer serving as a member, and 2 members of the finance committee, 2 members of academic affairs. In order to kind of streamline the process and make sure that we're serving the student body in the best way that we can, the idea is to merge the different processes that are scattered and in different silos into one. That way, the allocations committee that would be chaired by the treasurer would be able to have. Okay. Would be able to hear this. If we can stay here for a second. No worries. So the process would still stay the same with the student group coming to the now allocations committee with their request. Their request would be submitted on Hotlink prior to, with information breaking down the cost. And then it would then go to the allocations committee to hear it. And if we can scroll down. And this kind of outlines the process. A lot of the changes, again, are just very grammatical, not changing the structure that exists, but more so that the follow-up process would now be with the treasurer instead of the academic allocations committee, and some other clarifying language. Any speakers for the speakers list? Jay, Izzy, then Alex.
I have 2 questions. First, why, I don't know if this is deep matters, but why is this section its own bill as compared to the other sections?
I'll direct to that because this process was something that was already in place before the bylaw review committee touched it. With creating the allocations committee, we felt it best to have this one be separate because it is a existing process that would be removing a whole committee from student senate. So we felt it deserved its own time on the floor to be heard on its own merits.
Sure, it appreciates its own. My second question is in that section right there in the A subsection where it is revised to say the students must request funding from a department or the office before requesting funds from the allocation committee. What is the office referring to?
I think the sponsors are going to be in favor of a friendly amendment to unstrike of the provost.
Friendly amendment on strike of provost in section.
I second that.
All right. Since it's a friendly amendment, we will make that change. Does that conclude your speaking turn? Does that conclude your speaking turn?
Yeah.
All right, busy.
I'm a little bit confused. So we are removing the academic allocations committee. And it's going to be requests under the allocations. So why is the section still called academic allocations?
To direct, that's because the funding process is still academic allocations because it's funding for academic purposes that do not fall under the general allocation request or the reserve funding request, but the committee would be different. So it's still in the bylaws, important to keep the process in there, that it is the academic allocations process in request form. So that way we're not having confusion with other processes.
So are those processes for other general requests to go for a general request, is that going to be outlined?
To direct, that was already included under the reserve funding, and there'll be one for general allocation requests.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
Ally?
I just wanted to say as a former member of the academic allocations committee last semester, I really like just even the critiques that were made to kind of condense the process on here. Just because I know the extensive process of like, ooh, what exactly are we doing? It's straight to the point and it's just like, this is, what an academic allocations process would look like if, should a student come in requesting money for a project or competition. So I just more of just a comment on, I like how this straightforward.
Joe?
So this would fall under the allocations committee?
Yes. Okay. Ashley?
Can we scroll through it?
So there was a previous open discussion topic about what the concluding process is, what the concluding process for like when kids come to the academic allocations committee like would be, and is like there was like a general consensus of like, oh, this would be a good idea, or this would be a good idea. And so is what like is under line 5, is that like what was decided upon will be the steps that they would have to take afterwards?
So to direct to that, we took the feedback from that open discussion topic, and that's where the idea of the Hawkland form came to. We did have to be mindful that because we are taking this out of the academic allocations committee, in order to streamline the process to the allocations committee, that General Senate would not hear that on the floor, just to ensure that we're not getting bogged down in updates from a process that has its own home.
And then I have another question. It's just made my brain go. With now this not just being academic requests and it being expanded to the types of requests that the allocations committee could receive, like, was there any thought about changing the maximum amount that could be like, allocated to like each group, or did you guys just decide to keep it the same at 2,000?
Point of information, the bylaw review committee isn't tasked with changing the processes, it's more just, although actually we are responsible. Take that back.
So I'll add a point of information. The thought process behind leaving it standard was just to see how the new process goes with one full academic year before we really look at, does the dollar amount need to change with this new process being more streamlined before we start changing dollar amounts. Jay?
I have a really semantic question. Can you scroll down? So I noticed in some of the previous bills that we discussed, and in this one, when we talk, when these things are listed like this one, they're listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other ones, it was A, B, C, D, E. Does that matter? I don't know, but it's like different, so I'm like questioning it.
What our parliamentarian like to direct?
Please let me know.
It doesn't like matter, like it doesn't make a difference in the bylaws, although if you would like a friendly amendment to be made that it is listed C, D, etc., that can be made. And I would be in favor of that.
Oh, then I would, yeah.
Okay.
So a friendly amendment to change lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
Yes,
to the.
All right, while our parliamentarian adjusts that, we'll move on to Izzy.
So to clarify, I'm sorry, there's a lot of language, there's a lot of bylaws, this is hefty, we have a lot of enforcement. So the academic allocations was an ad hoc committee, and that would be established as necessary with requests.
So to direct, the academic allocations committee is ceasing to exist. So this will be the last semester that we have.
Yes, I understand.
Yep.
So so we're changing it, just the overall allocations committee from an ad hoc to a permanent committee, or like a committee that's similar to bylaw that just kind of is revived as needed.
So to direct, we'll have more information on that when the bill to establish the academic or the allocations committee comes to the floor, and we'll be able to debate that then.
Okay, thank you.
Matt,
Withdrawn.
are there any other speakers for the speakers list? Ashley?
That question, but like,
Actually, wait.
I feel like I don't have a full understanding of what the allocations committee is gonna do, because we haven't created the allocations committee and like haven't like discussed what it would be doing. So like personally, like I don't understand how I would be able to pass bill tonight to like say what the allocations committee is gonna do when we haven't had that full discussion.
Sorry.
So motion to table this bill till next week.
Point of parliamentary procedure, there's already been a bill that was passed that sort of did that. And that was the bill before this.
But not to the extent of this one. Like the other one, like even with the slight amount of discussion of the allocation committee in it, like I was able to understand it, but this one I'm still not fully able to understand without fully understanding what the committee is.
So I'll jump in here with a point of information. The allocations committee was discussed at the Student Senate retreat in the winter. We had a discussion there about how that would look, how it would function, and the benefits of doing that. The bylaw review committee and the executive board used that conversation, that discussion, to help guide this process. And because of the timeline with the semester, with the bylaw review committee, and also the changes needed with e-board positions and committee position structures, Article 5 has to come before, or Article 7, my apologies, needs to come before Article 5. The allocations committee, very simply, there's no change to the process of how academic allocation requests are handled, except for the name change of the committee and the change of the structure that was agreed upon at the winter retreat. Joe?
So I guess bouncing off from what previous senator was talking about, so I mean, the academic allocation is gonna stand till the end of the Senate, and then allocations committee come to be existent in the next Senate series.
That is
Is that
correct.
right?
Matt?
So I know I withdrew my question, but I just had I came back to me. So this committee, academic allocations, but I know it's changing, has always been headed by the treasurer, or is that new?
So that was chaired by the vice president previously.
Okay,
The treasurer was an existing member of the committee. And in order to streamline the process and make sure that the vice president had enough time to focus on training and development and internal matters, and that the treasurer had the ability to control funding processes and allocations, that's where the distinction was made.
okay. And so just to get this straight, the treasurer go after this Senate would be not only the chair of the finance committee, but the chair of the academic or the allocations committee as well? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Brian and Jay?
Withdrawn.
And back down. Okay, no, never mind. Okay, withdrawn, never mind. Answer.
All right, are there any motions or other speakers?
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
We'll veto that. And Fiona?
Oh, I think so.
Okay, perfect. Hearing a motion in a second, all those in favor of calling the bill to question? Those opposed? Abstentions? This bill is now called to question. Since it's a bylaw bill, we will be voting by roll call.
Zachary Demian,
Yes.
Zachary LaFontaine,
Yes.
Mike Earl,
Yes.
Brian Carl,
Yes.
Ali Schoenfeld,
Yes.
Matthew Tilley,
No.
Mackenzie Morgan,
Yes.
Jason Reagan,
Yes.
Josh Ongara, Isabel Bollier, Louise Dugarte,
No.
Peter, Danny Hazelton, Fiona Dolan,
No.
Michaela Abt,
No.
Joe Piscola,
Abstain.
Very neutral.
Alexandra Robbins, Yara Shimwe? Yes. Ethan Nelson?
No.
1 second.
One moment while we tally.
Sorry, I have to do attendance. and
Yeah, Matt.
Conversation will last.
I didn't mean to sound angry.
Yeah, you gotta lower your voice a couple octaves. Go.
No.
No. I didn't mean to sound angry.
Man had to put his foot down.
No, it's assertive.
I loved it.
Did I keep kicking you?
No. No. Good job.
All right. All right. Are there any other bills for old business? Joe?
Introducing SS48 076, I believe. Bill amending Article 7, Sections 9 through 16, 19, 21, and 22 of the Student Senate bylaws.
Would you like to elaborate?
So this is pretty simple. For the SAF, you have to take one step back, go 2 steps forward, and basically all this did was just like eliminate the whole thing from the bylaws and just move it over to the SAF. And please let me know if I'm wrong, board. And I believe that's all. And I think all they did was change the language from like clubs and orgs to just charters.
Friendly amendment, can we delete the space between that and Article 7?
Just as a reminder, friendly amendments can be made by the parliamentarian. Are there any speakers? Jay?
You scroll down. I don't get why that's a joke for everybody. You scroll down more. And then back up. So we're just getting rid of everything.
Yeah.
Like literally everything.
It's moved
And
to
it's going to the, okay.
which might.
It's gonna be in the handbook, correct?
Yep.
Just as a reminder, if we can have one speaker at a time. Does that conclude your speaking turn, Jay?
Yeah, if everything's being moved. What else is there to say?
Is it?
So are we gonna rename the articles? If we're striking this one? Or is there some that's like in there? Sorry.
Would anyone like to direct?
Point of inquiry?
What do you mean?
It's, I think she meant sex.
Yes.
Oh, no, but still, like, what do you mean?
Oh, wait, never mind. No, sorry, this is not, we're not striking all of the articles, we're just striking the aforementioned articles.
sections, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm really
Sorry.
trying to understand.
No, I'm sorry, there's,
It's okay.
I'm like overstimulated, I like being out of focus on the screen. So where.
So point of information, everything in this bill is stricken and not in the bylaws anymore. And it's in the handbook.
Okay,
Luis,
withdrawn, that answered my question.
Mackenzie?
I think I'm gonna attempt to say what Izzy was trying to say. So is section 17 now going to become section 9 because it is being moved up in place, or is that being changed as well?
Point of information, section 17 is not in this bill.
Yes, but because you are deleting 9 through 16, is everything else going to be relabeled now?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
just making sure.
All right, Fiona.
I was just wondering, like, why you're taking out of the bylaw and not like leaving it in there?
Would anyone like to direct? Jim?
I guess I'll direct. So basically, the SAF is designed to sort of pave the way for the finance committee. So like, let's say, I'll take my like experience. So when I walked in and started like the finance committee experience, I didn't even know like what the SAF meant or how like the lines of consistency worked. Like they were just words on a piece of paper to me. And over time, I kind of picked up the pace and kind of learned how it worked. But the SAF handbook would kind of like sum up the whole process into this handbook. So if you need to refer to it, whether that be the lines of consistency or just to tell that new senator that's walking in what the SAF means, just be like, oh, it's right there in section 1. That's all that's really meant. Did that answer your question?
I mean more like, is it, why can't we both places, like, and then?
Would anyone like to direct, Mike?
The idea is that we're trying to make the bylaws a bit more. It's gonna, like, this is, how many pages? 9 pages, so it's gonna like shorten it by 9 pages.
And for a point of information, this was discussed at winter retreat, at caucuses, that this was the goal of the SAS handbook, the clubs and orbs handbook, the parliamentary procedure handbook. There was lots of discussion then about the benefits of that, and this bill, once again, just removes that. Luis?
I think this bill is pretty concise. It's pretty straight to the point. We're just like deleting half, like a majority of what is in the bylaws, and we're putting it, allocating it, if you will, to another section. So I'm pretty much in favor of this.
Jay?
Is all of this information being put in the new thing, like word for word, all of it?
Would anyone like to direct? Joe?
Basically, it's going to the SAF, and the finance committee basically was working on it over the last few semesters. Or last semester.
Point of information, you all should have read the essay handbook before voting on it.
Would anyone like to yield to our advisor?
Yield.
Thank you for yielding. Any other speakers for this bill?
Kind of personal privilege, can you scroll? Sorry, to where section 18 is being tried. I'm sorry. Then a little more. Sorry. Yeah.
Even more.
Yeah.
Just a little more.
Okay, thank you.
All right, are there any motions?
Motion to call this bill to question?
Second.
All those in favor of calling this bill to question? All those opposed, abstentions? This bill is now called to question. Since it's a bylaw bill, we'll vote by roll call.
Zach Goodman,
Yes.
Zach LaFontaine, Mike Earl,
Yes.
Brian Carroll,
Yes.
Ali Schonfeld. Yes. Matthew Tilly.
Yes.
Yes.
Jason Megan. Hold on, sorry. Please do Garte.
Yes.
Ashley Hayes,
Yes.
Riley Veeder, Danny Hazelton, Fiona Dolan,
Yes.
Kayla Apto, Joe Pistoli,
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins,
Yes.
Kira Schindler,
Yes.
Stephen Nazar.
Yes.
This bill passes.
Are there any other pieces of legislation for old business? Zach?
Introducing SS48 .078, bill amending Article 7, Section 20 of the Student Senate bylaws for consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
I will yield to the vice president.
All right, and we will wait till it's pulled up. So if we can scroll down a little. Oh, no, just.
Wait a second.
So this bill is about budgetary systems. It was currently section 20 with the renumbering of deleting other sections. It will now be section 8.
Point of personal privilege.
Oh.
We can see that some of this information is struck to be concise and to make sure that the process flows smoothly. The annual budgeting process is now concise based on charter status, which is the different elements of classes, and it breaks that down into more specific information. And also strikes some of the language that made it difficult for the clubs or the clubs and orgs to understand the section because it was so in different parts. It just makes it concise to the point. Some of the information is contained in the SAF handbook, others is being stricken for redundancy. And again, something that finance and bylaw review committee are in full favor of. Jen?
This is perfect. When you have like really procedural stuff that's really wordy in the bylaws and you replace it with like a step-by-step, like really easily to understand. This is exactly the kind of thing that bylaw review should be doing. So, good stuff.
Absolutely.
So we're basically keeping the A, B, C, and D from the old time the same. And then instead of having separate sections for decisions, notification, appeals, it's just being added to the.
Yeah, that's perfect. Anyone else for the speakers list? All those in favor of calling this bill to question? All those opposed? Abstentions? This bill is now being called to question. Since it's a bylaw bill, we'll vote by roll call.
Zach Goodman,
Yes.
LaFontaine,
Yes.
Mike Rowe,
Yes.
Ryan Kraus,
Yes.
Ali Stroughfeld, Matt Kelly.
Yes.
Mackenzie Marklemont.
Yes.
Josh Ongara, Isabel Boley. Please do, Garcia.
Yeah, yes.
Ashley Harris.
Yep.
Harry Peter, Andy Hamilton, Deanna Poland. Yes. Nicole Abt. Yes. Bill Castoli.
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins. Yes. Kira Shipley.
Yes.
Stephen Nelson.
Yes.
Bill passes.
Any other piece of legislation for old business?
Introducing SS48 077, a bill amending Article 7, Section 18 of the Student Senate bylaws.
Would you like to elaborate?
Of course I would. Considering fundraising information has already been moved to the SF handbook, this will primarily just be going over information about the fundraising platforms that clubs can use and the repercussions for not following the guidelines. So the more versatile stuff that can be changed and moved to the SF handbook, that kind of set in stone information will be made here in Section 18, now renamed Section 7.
Are there any speakers? Joe?
So in that second paragraph of section 7, would it make more sense to, include what is considered the appropriate accounts instead of saying it's not appropriate? If that makes sense.
Pretty sure, actually,
Would you mind restating the question?
So the line says, charter classes may only use university approved funding platforms and methods, which may not include, and then list Venmo, Square Cash. Would it make more sense to word it the other way around?
I'll direct to that. Bylaws are not supposed to be stated in the negative, only the positive. So instead of saying what a person or group is not supposed to do,
It is.
it shouldn't be.
It says you can't use Venmo. So, point of information. I think that when we were going over this in the last semester, so somebody can jump in if you remember. I think we were trying to list out specifically, like you can't use third-party apps like Venmo or Cash App or whatever. But you can use like university tickets. So I think that our purpose of keeping it sort of in the negative, which is traditionally not something that we do, is that we are explicitly stating that you cannot use like Venmo, Square Cash, whatever else, because you just can't. And if it says it explicitly in there that you can't use it, then there's no debating whether or not you can use it. Because if we just say you have to use university tickets or whatever else, then it's not saying that you can't use Venmo. So, okay, I'm gonna use Venmo. And we don't want to leave that room because you can't use it. So.
Brian?
So I have a question, because it says that their charters would be reconsidered by the Roger Williams Student Senate. Would this fall to the General Senate or would this fall to the Club Board Committee?
Would anyone like to direct? Would anyone like to yield to our advisor? All right, Adrian.
So in this process, if it is discovered that a club is, using one of these platforms, a grievance would come to the clubs and orgs committee. And that is who would make the decision if their charter would be revoked. So ultimately it will go to the clubs and orgs committee, but there would have to be that grievance filed with the clubs and orgs committee.
Luis,
Withdrawn.
Stephen,
You said or one of the previous senators said the words third-party apps. Do you think saying maybe Venmo, Square Cash and other third-party apps, or would that be a little overkill? Because though I think that we should give examples and then third-party apps, just because I think it would give more clarification, or is that a little bit too much?
would anyone like to direct or any amendments?
Motion to amend that section to say which may not include any third-party apps.
Sorry.
Because like
Such as.
Venmo and Square Cash and GoFundMe could potentially in the future become outdated. And there could be other third-party apps besides those ones. So just by generally saying third-party apps or any outside bank account.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, since it is an amendment, we have to vote on the amendment first. All those in favor of making that amendment? All those opposed? Abstentions? This amendment fails. Point of inquiry from Joe.
My question, I guess, is, it's just, it was like, is university just the university, the RWO?
Zach,
Motion to amend that section to read, third-party apps, which may not include third-party apps such as Venmo, Square Cash, GoFundMe.
all those in favor of making that amendment? All those opposed? Abstentions? That amendment is made. One moment while the parliamentarian includes that. Stephen, does that conclude your speaking turn?
Yes, sir.
Izzy?
Yeah, I would say, and while I understand that they might be outdated, there's a lot of things in the bylaws that might be outdated at some point, so I think it's important to clarify. As of right now, in this current generation, which would not be allowed, because I think some people will take only like third-party applications and they might kind of run with it, so I think it's important to clarify. Because there's various methods, including PayPal, and PayPal's not included, so.
Michaela?
I agree with that. I think it should be any third-party apps such as like in parentheses such as Venmo, Square, whatever. But also, why are these not allowed? Because like a lot of students would honestly prefer doing Venmo or something like that. So is there a way that we could like set up like Splo Venmo or something like that?
Since Flo is directly mentioned, would anyone like to yield to our advisor?
I think our advisor can give a point of information if she.
These university tickets has the approved credit card payment system of the university, which is governed by the finance department. All these other third-party apps are not regulated by the university. Students can share money and stuff could just disappear. Because if, one club has Venmo, then we don't know where, who's actually owning that Venmo account. And then it needs to be owned by somebody else the following year. Was the Venmo account actually emptied out? And so forth. If you use the Splo Venmo account, if we were to create a Splo Venmo account, how do we know what is actually coming into the Splo Venmo account? You may be wanting to purchase tickets for the ski club, but maybe you don't even put in there what it is you're wanting to do. And I was like, okay, what is this $150 for? So that is the reason why we have university tickets. and it all automatically feeds to each of the club's appropriate, GL accounts and everything.
To follow up on that, I was more or less thinking like, when we do the fundraiser, there's like $5 for top and strawberry or something like that, where it's just something really small.
We have the university.
That would still work for that.
April, that's good.
Brian, did you have a point of information?
I was just going to say, in the bylaw, it says that, for all the people saying, why don't we include all the other things? It says et cetera, so it kind of encompasses like the most being used right now. So we could also refer to future ones.
Ashley,
Can we scroll back? Like to the top. And then scroll, I'm sorry, scroll to the second page. Or is it a one page? It's a
It's one
page.
page.
Okay. So we're just completely getting rid of why, like the intent of why we allow fundraisers to happen, and why did we decide to just like get rid of that?
Mike, would you like to direct?
Yes, that information being with the SF handbook.
Point of information, the sections that are also stricken from red do not conform with current practice. Currently in the bylaws, it lists that a student group will be allocated a certain amount, and then student senate will take out the money that was allocated for the fundraiser. So if a Yankee Candle fundraiser basket cost $80 and the club made 100, we would take that 80 out and there'd be left with a profit of 20. That does not conform with current practices, and that's why the bylaw review committee decided to strike that section. Going to veto, we have some people on the speakers list, Joe and then Mike.
Previous senator already answered my question, but I would say friendly amendment because it does say page 1 of 2. So it should be page 1.
It does it all.
That's been drawn, don't worry about it.
Mike.
So as our previously stated medical report, here, if you scroll down. There you go. Thank you. They noted that at the end, it does say Roger Williams University Student Senate, and that even stumped me a little bit. So do we want to add that like small clarification to say Roger Williams Student Senate Clubs and Orgs Chair or Clubs and Orgs Committee? To mention where it's exactly going.
Allie, would you like to direct?
I mean, it's being considered.
Okay. That's fine.
More general question about, this is the last Article 7 bill, correct, or is there one more? I think.
I believe this is the last one.
Okay, so there has been no mention of section 17, and looking in the bylaws, there isn't a section 17, is there just no section 17? Okay, just wanted that clarification, thank you.
All right, that exhausts the speakers list. Are there any motions?
Motion to call this for the question.
Second.
All those in favor of calling this bill to question? All those opposed? Abstentions? This bill is now called to question. Since it's a bylaw bill, we'll vote by roll call.
Domian,
Yes.
Jack Fontaine,
Yes.
Mike Earl,
Yes.
Brian Crow,
Yes.
Ali Schoenfeld, Matt Foley,
Yep.
Morgan, Ethan Regan,
Yeah.
Josh Unger, Isabel Bollier, Louise Garcia,
Yes.
Ashley Meredith,
Yes.
Riley Peter, Danny Hazelton, Fiona Dolan,
Yes.
Michaela Act, Joe Pastuli,
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins, Kira Shimwe,
Yes.
Stephen Elsnick.
Yes.
Can we go back to the old business line? All right, are there any motions for old business?
Motion to close old business.
Second.
All those in favor of closing old business? All those opposed? Abstentions? Old business is now closed.
Motion to open new business. Second.
All those in favor of opening new business? All opposed? Abstentions? New business is now opened. Are there any bills for new business? Zach.
Introducing SS48 079, a bill appointing members to the elections committee for the spring elections for immediate consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
I'll yield to the vice president.
All right, so this bill appoints 2 members of the interclass council to the elections committee. As they do have to be senior class officers per the student senate bylaws, this bill would make sure that the members appointed confirm with the practice of the student senate bylaws, and also that their names listed. Shannon Gribbin, Aliana Walsh have served as excellent members of the senior class cabinet, working with their class officers to plan events, and they would serve exceptionally well on the elections committee. Before we get to the speakers list, are there any motions to allow consideration for immediate consideration?
Motion to allow, hear this bill for immediate consideration.
Second.
All those in favor of hearing this bill for immediate consideration? All those opposed? Abstentions? This bill will now be considered for immediate consideration. And are there any speakers?
Motion to limit debate to 5 minutes.
Second.
Are all those in favor of limiting debate to 5 minutes? All those opposed? Abstentions? This motion, the bill is limited to 5 minutes. If the parliamentarian can start the clock, and then we'll begin with his.
So, sorry to clarify, we had bills prior to vacation, so please refresh my memory, was there either class council members appointed to that bill?
With the parliamentarian.
Yes, they were not senior class officers, and per our bylaws, they needed to be senior class officers. If we did not appoint senior class officers, or there were not senior class officers from ICC appointed, then somebody could challenge the entire elections and we would have to redo it. So we needed to fix that ASAP, and that's what this is.
So will all 4 of them be on?
Just these two.
Just these 2? Okay, great.
All right, any other speakers for the speakers list?
Motion to call this bill to question. Second.
All those in favor of calling this bill to question? Those opposed? Abstentions? This bill is now called to question.
Motion to vote by normal hands.
Second.
All those in favor of voting by normal hands? All those opposed? Abstentions? We're now voting by normal hands. Okay, we'll veto that. Motion to amend line, the chair would encourage a motion to.
I motion to amend.
Could you let it-
Let him finish, Jay.
The chair would encourage a motion to amend, add a clause in after, line 8 to include language such as that these members would be replacing the existing members, appointed.
Motion to make an amendment for adding a clause to line 10 that reads, noting that these members will replace the members that were appointed in prior, something of that sort.
Unconstitutional.
Noting that, noting that these members will replace the previously appointed interclass council.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we'll wait to vote until the parliamentarian finishes typing. All right, all those in favor of this amendment? All those opposed? Abstentions? Great, this motion or amendment passes. Zach?
Motion to amend line 13 to just say, let it be resolved.
All right, since that's the friendly amendment, the parliamentarian will make that change. Mackenzie?
Isn't it already stated, or I may just be, because I knew about this before. In line 2, it says to replace the members appointed on March 7th. So now we just added, it. Okay.
Good practice for us.
All right, any other speakers? Or any motion? Brian?
Then should we leave it in, or do you think we should remove? It's okay, okay.
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
All those in favor of calling this bill to question? All those opposed?
Motion to adopt by unanimous consent.
We're not going to do that yet because we have to take abstentions. All those abstaining? All right, this bill is now called to question.
Motion to vote by normal hands.
Second.
All those in favor of voting by normal hands? All those opposed? Abstentions? Will now be voting by normal hands. All those in favor of this bill? All those opposed? Abstentions? This bill passes. Before we move along, we do have a guest. So would anyone like to yield a speaking turn to
I will yield.
audience? Great. Phil, would you like to address Student Senate?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. My name is Phil Harris. I am a new matriculating student at University College of Roger Williams. So you will be seeing me now. Hopefully I get to, I can come and learn about Senate, and maybe I can bring some ideas about how we can not only help Roger here, but Roger at University College as well. I really didn't have this experience when I was your age, so I'm hoping to be a part of the experience and learn, not just from hearing it from my wife, but be a part and learn now. So I look forward to working together with you. I usually be here studying, but when time allows, I'll come down and pop up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, thank you.
We look forward to having another matriculating student at our fine institution. Oh, we will now
University College.
say, still part of the fine institution that we call home. The parliamentarian has a point of information.
Point of personal, yeah, whatever. So we are still in new business, but I wanted to go point of personal privilege because there are about to be a bunch of bills introduced for next week. It might sound like a lot. We are going to have a caucus and discuss it. It's not going to be nearly as overwhelming as it might sound. We have a plan. Please take a breather.
Thank you, goodness, because.
Just take a breather. It's not, there is going to be a new process introduced during caucus. That is going to help us consolidate and take feedback from our general senators about consolidating meetings, and a lot of things. Yeah, so just breathe through the introduction of new business and then just wait until the caucus while we explain this thing. Oh,
goodness.
just like we're gonna be introducing it, but just let it happen.
Are there any bills for new business? Mike.
Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 5, Section 4 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Look forward to hearing it. Mike.
Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 5, Section 3 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Those are both for regular consideration, correct?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Any other bills, Mike?
Those are the two.
Joe.
Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 5, Section 2 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Look forward to hearing it. Joe.
Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 5, Section 5 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Look forward to hearing that. Any other bills, Mackenzie?
No, sorry.
Zach, and we're just gonna let Zach go.
Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 5, Section 1 of the Student Senate bylaws for consideration.
Keep going.
Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill striking Appendix A from the Student Senate bylaws for consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 1, Section 1 through 3 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 4, Section 1 through 3 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 4, Section 4 through 5 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 5, Section 1, 2, and 9 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 5, Section 3, 4, 6, and 7 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 5, Section 5 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 5, Section 8 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 6, Section 1 through 2 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Articles Section 1, 2, and 6 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Articles 8, Section 1 through 7 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 9, Section 1 through 3 of the Student Senate Constitution for regular consideration. Introducing SS 48-XXX, a bill amending Article 10, section 1 through 3 of the Student Senate Constitution for consideration.
18.
18. Thank you, Zach. Look forward to hearing all 18.
Take a breather. It's not gonna be as bad as it sounds.
I'm so motion to close new business.
Second.
All those-
Motion by unanimous consent.
Second.
First, we have to vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstentions? New business is closed. Moving on to announcements. Are there any announcements? Izzy?
Hi, everyone. So prior to spring break, I found out the answer to all of your lovely questions regarding the EVs and the lock boxes. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you do not know what it's about, email, we got an email from Isabel Bolyacki, as you can see.
Mike?
I have two little mini announcements. First, I wanted to say thank you to everyone for all the positive feedback and also conversation about the SAF handbook. And I'd also like to mention that like a lot of that reception did come to me, but it's also good to mention that the finance committee did do a lot of work when it came to that. So I really want them to also be in that spotlight. And then second, this is an announcement for the finance committee. Academic allocations will be meeting soon. So I will find at least one or two of you soon. If any of you are interested, please contact me. I'll follow up soon.
Matt?
Kind of just going off what Mike just said, academic allocations are coming up. So same thing for the Academic Affairs Committee. There was a Google form that was sent, I think, with time and that kind of stuff. So same thing as Mike.
And Zach?
So we will be embarking on a scanning our archives assignment coming into a street near you. So we will be taking care of taking those in. So if any of you are interested, and if you don't reach out, you will be getting reached out to. So if you are interested, please come see me at the end of the meeting, so we can kind of discuss and get a game plan going. But the goal is to have this done in 3 weeks, so.
Any questions, Michaela?
I thought we did this already.
Nope, motion to adjourn. I would yield to the vice president on that.
So I first want to acknowledge everyone's hard work with the hot scan assignment. We made progress. Unfortunately, there's still more progress to be made. The current secretary has a plan and we look forward to hearing that.
Motion to
There's
adjourn.
more that wasn't done.
Second.
People are still talking, do not adjourn. As people
All right, any other announcements or questions? All right, one announcement, academic allocations. I'll be reaching out. Thank you to the chairs for that shameless plug. More information will be in the caucus. Also, we do have a caucus after, so we will take about a 7-minute break and we'll plan on being back here at 8:32. All right, any other announcements or any motions?
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning? All those opposed? Abstentions? We're now adjourned.
Second.